This is Africa 24. It is always a pleasure to all have you with us. In this edition of the interview with Mr. Michael Ogbalu III, CEO of PAPSS, we will discuss the need for African states to embrace local solutions to settle their payments. Mr. Ogbalu, welcome to Africa 24.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Ogbalu, you're Chief Executive Officer of PAPSS, which is essentially easing cross-border payments easier for traders under the AFCFTA. What opportunities does Afreximbank offer in boosting your operations?
Well, first of all, Afreximbank has been visionary in connecting the dots around trade, and therefore Afreximbank, in reviewing what hasn't been impeding trade, decided that it needed to intervene in the area of payments. And this is not a new vision, but back in 1963, when the founding fathers made their first resolution at the OAU, they decided that the country needed a Pan-African payment and clearing infrastructure. So PAPSS actually was launched commercially in January of 2022. And so far, we have built a world-class payment infrastructure, which has been able to bring together a number of people within the payments ecosystem, from central banks to commercial banks to fintechs, and therefore integrating them together such that a payment can originate from one account somewhere in Africa and terminate in another account, and it's able to do that in no more than 120 seconds. In fact, we promised the market 120 seconds, but we have been able to deliver an average of about 7 seconds. So it's a world-class payment system that actually enables us to leverage our local currencies to be able to power trade, and that is very powerful for the continent.
Since its inception in 2022, PAPSS has incorporated about 10 central banks. However, Afreximbank projects that more central banks will come on board in 2025. What updates do you have in that regard?
So today we have 16 countries, and we have countries across the regions of Africa. We have both in North Africa, East Africa, South Africa, West Africa, and we have across the region. We have 150 commercial banks that have connected into PAPSS, which brings together about 500 million bank accounts connected onto the same platform. Now, we have now started opening up also for fintechs and other people in the payments ecosystem to integrate into our platform. That means that you can now have interoperability between accounts and wallets. You asked about what are the updates that we expect to see. We expect that in the next few months, we'll have the two Francophone central banks fully onboarded onto PAPSS, the BCL and the BIAC. What that will do is it will further even open up the region for trade. So we think that the more countries join, we're also looking at a number of countries in Southern Africa who have indicated interest in joining. We are looking at a number of Northern Africa countries who have also into. So what that will do is once everybody is fully on board, what you'll see is that it becomes very easy to make payments between individuals. Businesses are able to do their trade and do it in record time, okay? And even governments, because one of the things we are seeing now is that a number of governments actually leverage PAPSS to make payments to their embassies in the different countries. So you're going to see how payments is able to accelerate trade, improve on economic activities, and therefore make Africa even more prosperous.
One of the targets of PAPSS is to save at least $5 billion, which the continent loses each year due to cross-border forex transfers. How close are we to achieving that goal?
We are actually beginning to see that goal. So we have achieved it in a number of ways. So first of all, the cost of sending money on PAPSS is very significantly less than any other thing that you find on the continent. And we achieved this by cutting out all of the middlemen. Before this time, for such a payment, the payment, first of all, travels halfway around the world before coming back to the continent. But today, we have now done it in such a way that our payments originate and conclude on the African continent without having to leave Africa. So when you cut out middlemen, it reduces costs. We as PAPSS have also cut our fees such that you can make cross-border payments for as low as $2 and in some cases as low as 30 cents. So we have significantly reduced the cost of doing payments. And what that means is that these traders and businesses have more resources available to them to actually buy more inventory and be able to increase their trade. So we're already beginning to see those benefits, but we will see the fullest of the benefits when more countries join, because it's a network effect. When you have, for example, Ethiopia on the mix, it creates more value for a country like Djibouti. Okay, when you have Egypt in the mix, it creates more value for Kenya because Kenya exports tea to Egypt and so on and so forth. So the more countries we have joining, the more value. But for today, we have 150 commercial banks, we have 16 countries, we have 14 switches that are connected into our platform.
Mr. Ogbalu, PAPSS is not only dealing with payments, but also with settlements in the event of tariff misnomers. Do you think that leg of your operation is robust enough to give confidence to investors that Africa is the best place to trade?
Well, again, we believe that we're Africans, but we're also world class. And I'll use the example of what we've done at PAPSS. Yeah, we have built our system to align with global standards. There is no system anywhere on the planet that can say that it has something that is superior to what we have built in PAPSS. So our system is world-class, built around the best messages standards, certified to the highest standards, and built in the line with principles for financial market infrastructure. So that would give confidence to a lot of people who want to leverage the system. So we give confidence to the banks who leverage our infrastructure, and that confidence they are able to extend to businesses, investors, and other people who want to do business with us. Let me also note that in between the starting of a transaction and the ending of it, we have built a number of key systems in between that deal with AML, that deal with sanction screening, that deal with fraud management. All these are part of the infrastructure that we put together to guarantee trust in our system, and that trust can be extended to other people who want to do business to our people.
This year's theme is building on decades of resilience. What does that mean to you, the context where President Obama is handing over? And what would you like his legacy to look like as Afreximbank is building its future?
Well, there are very few leaders like President Obama, who is both visionary and execution focused. Very few leaders have both characteristics. So he's been able to envision this, and he's executing on it, and he continues to inspire the entire continent. So we think that the impact of PAPSS and the impact on the GDP of Africa will be one of those lasting legacies that he will leave for the continent. Of course, beyond PAPSS, his footprints are all over businesses, all over governments across Africa, okay? His understanding of value chains and this understanding of where to intervene to unlock the various value chain is something that the continent will cherish for a very long time to come.
Mr. Ogbalu, this takes us to the end of our interview. Thank you for answering our questions.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ladies and gents, here comes the end of this program, the Spatial on Africa 2040 Billion Card, and on the app by Africa 24.